former MMA fighter who proudly identifies herself as Native American and gay, wins one of the most anticipated elections in the metro.
It seems unlikely. Raised by a single mom, from community college to the Ivy League, from a waitress to the White House. I've been put down, pushed aside, knocked out. Truth is, I've had to fight my whole life because of who I am, who I love, and where I started.
Sharice Davids winning the crowded Democratic primary for the Kansas 3rd Congressional District seat, currently held by Kevin Yoder. Just before Election Day, her opponent Brett Welder getting all the attention, including a primetime spot on CNN. What happened in this race that propelled Sharice Davids to victory, do you think, Jay?
Well, I mean, Brett Welder had very tenuous ties to the Kansas City area. I mean, he literally just moved here from St. Louis about a year and a half ago. He received a lot of the national push. He was very associated with the Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party. There's not a lot of grassroots support for that particular faction of the party here in Johnson County. Sharice was able to line up support from city level people who already had constituencies. I think Democrats sort of realized that Brett Welder was going to be probably Kevin Yoder's easiest out, and Sharice Davids is probably going to be his hardest out.
Do you think it is? You know, I will say I've always been of the opinion that Kevin Yoder had nothing to worry about this election season until this election. This is a woman with a remarkable backstory, and I can imagine her on Ellen and all of these national shows getting huge amounts of national free attention, plus lots of money coming into this district.
To Jay's point, we spent a lot of time talking about how much Donald Trump won by. Donald Trump is an entity all in and of himself, right? And also national support and interest. People in Kansas City don't care about that. They want you here. They want you in their neighborhoods, knocking on doors. I think what Democrats have figured out very quickly, you look at Ocasio-Cortez in New York, the ground game is where you're going to win over most people on the Democratic side of the ticket. And let's face it, Sharice Davids' story resonates with a lot of people in this area, raised by a single mom, pulled herself up by her bootstraps, shall we say, and has really made something of herself. And I think that resonates.
Kevin Yoder, though, saying that she wasn't even actually from the district. She grew up in Leavenworth, had been living in Lawrence. She only came here to run. Is there any truth to that, and does that impact the way voters will feel about her?
Well, she came back to Kansas City. She worked her way through the Johnson County Community College, went to Cornell Law School. The Kansas City Star has pointed out in one of their editorials several ways that she is connected to the area. Okay, so she's from Leavenworth, but she was also up against a guy who moved here, only a year and a half ago. So I think trying to say she's not from here is just parsing words.
What about what does she actually stand for? We see an amazing backstory, the MMA fighter, yes, waitress to the White House fellow, all of that. But what does she actually stand for, Dave?
Well, she's very much a mainstream Democrat, a bit to the left. Surprisingly, though, Nick, she is certainly to the right of Brent Welder. And in fact, when we interviewed all 6 candidates at the editorial board before our endorsement of Sharice Davids, and we were, before those interviews, convinced that she was sort of on the left with Brent. But when you talk with her, you understand that she wants universal health care coverage, but suggests it's going to take some time. She's against the tax cuts. I mean, there's a very mainstream Democratic positions for her campaign. I will tell you, though, that there is strong evidence that Kevin Yoder is very worried. Yeah. Typically, he waits until 3 or 4 weeks out before he unloads the heavy guns. The day after the election, he was putting out pictures of Sharice Davids with Nancy Pelosi and calling her radical. That is, it's very rare for Kevin Yoder to go to DEFCON 1 the day after the primary. That suggests he's very worried because her personal story, coupled with a potential Democratic wave, puts his seat in play.
Okay, we can't go through every single election result, but there are some other interesting ones we just want to focus on in a quick round robin. While they may not be the headline grabbers, 2 moderate Republican state lawmakers in Kansas lose